Okay. Josh is here. I'm so excited for your update. I'm preparing you. You know you have one. Yeah. You don't have to go right now, but letting you know we're gonna call on top of it. We'll call on you. Are we ready to get started? Or we want to eat our lunch? No, the mayor's busy.
Right here early.
I've got some more in my purse for you for later.
You steal something?
You for later.
Now you ask what happens to people that steal?
Nothing.
Now, indicted, I saw. Indicted.
Nothing happened. We do all kinds of things. It's fine. Okay, so let's call to order.
I figure Nancy's the one.
We need to approve the agenda for March 17th. Do you have anybody who would like to approve our agenda?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. Can we have a vote?
Yay.
Any nays? I added that. You want to post? One. Okay, good. Approval of the minutes for February 24th.
So moved.
Thank you, Lynn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. A vote?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? No. And any citizen communication? Any citizens on Teams? Okay, and so let's start. Is Alex going to speak or is Isaac going to speak, or do you want to skip over?
I think we'll skip for today. Lori's out. She would be the most appropriate, I think. Give an update. She's been pretty busy with doing some land use review for the Buxton development. Aside from that, I haven't heard.
Okay.
Does anybody have any specific questions? I can answer some.
Any city questions?
It's quite exciting.
And I've already started my communications. Yep, Isaac said there's a price. Isaac said there's a price.
I think it's a cupcake.
No carb.
Carbs?
No carbs.
Well, then maybe the wrapper.
And I think Paul is up first for our update. He was here, but now I don't see him.
Just took down the picture.
I've got my camera off. I've got some connectivity issues. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Fairly brief report, but a significant one today. We've got 4 industrial recruiting projects we're working on right now, including site visits. 3 in St. Helens. 1 we're focused in on Rainier. They're all manufacturing projects. And then in addition is Next Renewables. Those of you following that, the county's land use order will be out next week, at which time the Department of State Lands can issue its permits for public review, and DEQ can as well. That's 3,000 construction jobs and about 284, I think, permanent jobs, which is that 284 is probably the composite of the other 4 projects we're working on. Our SBDC, Jason Most, the director we've recently hired, began on March 1. And last Friday night, President Wyden signed the budget bill, which captured the $175,000 appropriation from Congress. So we are fully funded for 4 years. And Jason is working. In the first 3 days, he's got 4 clients the first week of March. So things are already brisk. People are aware and are reaching out. We're involved in larger scope stuff. I just got the county is running a water hesitate to call it vision Pleased to be part of the 50-year vision process for they kicked off this week from the city. And our housing study, housing needs analysis and implementation study countywide is going on. There will be an HNA as part of the 50-year visioning, but for Scappoose, but this will be countywide. So those three things are big picture stuff and underway, and we are participating fully. That's, I think, it for us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. So no Casey today. Is QD here today? I know
Hey,
Michael's not here. Okay.
Yeah, this is Heidi from the PUD, Heidi Rawls.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, last month I had reported that our lighting project in Scappoose was about halfway done. We have completed that with the exception of a handful of lights that are still needing to be replaced. So we're excited that that's coming to an end. And then we're also working on a pilot incentive program to encourage industries to locate within our territory. We'll be meeting with Paul and then Amy Bynum from the Port of Columbia County and Melanie from Business Oregon to kind of finalize our requirements and guidelines. We're going to be following closely with the enterprise zone guidelines to help out a little bit. So be looking for information on that to come out. And that's about all we have going on right now.
Thank you. Jeff, how are you?
Okay.
Good.
At the library, we've restarted adult programming. So last night we had a foraging program that had 21 people in-house, 5 people online.
Foraging?
Huh?
Did you say foraging?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next month, we're doing edible mushroom identification.
A good time to go to the library.
Times restarting. So we're going to start in-person children's programming beginning of next month. We're one of the sponsors of Earth Day, which will be here in the park on the 24th of April.
We thought the 23rd.
It is the 23rd, actually. It's a Saturday.
Okay.
Well, it's the
I
Saturday.
don't know my calendar. So.
And all of the stuff that we purchased for the park is supposed to be set up and functional that day. So it's the solar chargers, new picnic tables, the new water fountain and bottle filling station. And movies in the park, I have a grant in with the PUD for that to expand it out. So bigger screen, better projection, and actually entertainment before the movie.
Nice.
That grant.
We pick the movies. We get to pick them.
Well, I'm waiting to see whether we get the grant or not. So that you want to pick.
No. I didn't know if who's on the team.
Mainly it's me and JJ.
Fantastic.
How about those are supposed to be done by Memorial Day.
Okay.
Labor Day. Sorry.
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Timber.
No, Memorial Day.
May.
One of those holidays.
Okay.
The idea is to get them in service, tourist season half.
Okay. That seems right. Fantastic. And then OMIC, welcome Josh. We're so happy to have you today. Thank you. I did like encourage him strongly.
Yeah, usually I'm multitasking everything I do, so I'm in 3 meetings at once. So it's difficult to do here.
Just a
Glad I
brief
came.
reminder really quick that people online can't hear some folks when they're speaking. So make sure you're speaking in the microphone.
So a couple of things I want to give an update on recently. We've seen a massive resurgence in manufacturing. And to us, we see that in our projects and our project schedules. If somebody came to me and said that we wanted a manufacturing challenge solved today, I would say we can't start that for a year from now. So we have a year's worth of work contracted to this point at the OMIC R&D Center. And so our next major step is going to be starting hiring and increasing our hiring efforts to accommodate all that additional research that we're seeing in multiple areas. We have a major renovation and a new building going up right now. The major renovation is about a month and a half from completion. When I left there today, we've been connected to natural gas. We've stabilized our facility for temperature, a bunch of lighting improvements and other things. The new building, we have about 50 people over there working on it right now. They're laying rebar, doing underground MEP work. We start pouring, we pour half the foundation next week. We pour the other half of the foundation the week after that. And then the last week of April, first week of May, we start erecting the steel structure. That will be the facility for a grand opening in October. Prior to that, in September, we will move machines and equipment in. So we'll see probably dozens of trucks roll through Columbia County with machines and equipment from all over the world. Will be coming into the facility, representing somewhere close to $8 or $10 million of capital investment from the state of Oregon. We have asks that are going out for our third building. So we're currently working on a third building and ask for that from the government. And that would be the standing up of a knowledge transfer center, a place where we could have approximately a 200-person auditorium, as well as several classrooms, space for OMEP to potentially relocate offices, and spaces for small businesses, incubators, and accelerators to have a home here in Columbia County, supported by the efforts of R&D in both 3D printing additive and subtractive manufacturing, traditional machining. We're currently trying to fill a gap in our funding for the finishing of our second building, the additive center. We went back to the HEC, and all the universities, all 7 universities together, proposed a $60 million ask to finish up constructions based on the cost of construction escalation and delays in supply chain. The universities were granted $30 million. We expect that we will get some percentage that's mildly below the amount that we need to finish the building. So we've started fundraising efforts, and we will be bringing in private funders to help look at how we fill that gap so that we finish. And there's not like secretly a bathroom that doesn't have a toilet in it when we finish up the building. And last but not least, and I hopefully I have the information right on this, between OMIC, OMEP, and Portland Community College, we were granted $645,000 from the federal government. It went across the president's desk, and we believe everything's been signed now. The funding for that $645,000 that was granted will put AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality headsets, as well as machines in many Columbia County schools. So the request was specifically to outfit Columbia County schools, multiple high schools, with machines and equipment for their shop programs, as well as AR, VR setups to do training activities on those machines. So in that, we'll be hiring Unity programmers to program these augmented and virtual reality environments to create assistive training programs that allows more students to get into the AR, VR, into the VR space, do initial training, and then get over onto machines and equipment. We hope that this method, where you typically have one instructor trying to train 30 students, and we get a subpar manufacturing education from that, can be enhanced based on the fact that every student will be getting more training now through augmented and virtual reality.
I know, that was a lot. Okay, so I have questions. So how many partners do we have at this point? How many manufacturing partners?
We have 39 members, industrial members of OMIC R&D, and the 3 universities. Oregon State Universities, the collaboration agreement that we run for all members is through 2027 when we renegotiate the collaboration agreement with all of our members. The Oregon State's expired this year. They signed on for 5 years instead of the full 10. I just got out of our Board of Governors meeting right before I came to this one. The board has voted unanimously to accept their proposal to stay in until 2027, and their funds will be redirected from what we currently use from our landlord for our landlord activities, maintenance, building maintenance, utilities, and such, We will now be pulling that out of our operational funding that we get from the state of Oregon. And with those additional funds, they will be putting students from Oregon State graduate students in our facility to help us conduct research activities, as well as train the high school students for the 12 to 14 high school students that we bring in for paid summer internships every summer.
I have a question about the auditorium. Would that be a community asset then?
Yes.
Because there's nothing like that in South.
Right. We plan on having between our first and second building, we plan on installing 173 parking spaces. We'll bolster that when we build a third building. But being a knowledge transfer center, the goal is to make that available to the county for for their purposes, as well as be able to host and attract international people to have conferences and those larger knowledge transfer events.
You know what I hear? Another need for a hotel. But let's not jump ahead.
How many people overall are you planning on being at the campus?
In what time frame? And students or staff?
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. We plan on each building. We expect to have about 20 to 30 staff in when it's full. That includes administrative staff as well as research staff. So we expect that in about the 5-year point between two buildings, we'll have close to 40-ish staff. We're about 10 with contractors right now. And we see that need growing as we add more people and the fact that we have our research booked out for so long.
You had mentioned previously there were 3 institutions. You started with OSU and you didn't get to the other 2.
Oh, Portland State University and Oregon Tech, our host.
I just want to make sure I had it correct.
So what's there now?
So in terms of accessibility to the public, we've really been hampered in the last few days to have, or last few years to have Manufacturing Day. So in terms of general public events, we hope to get up and going this year. October 7th is National Manufacturing Day. And back in 2019, we hosted over 400 students from 12 school districts at our facility. And with those students, we brought in 50 vendors, and students were able to see the kinds of careers in manufacturing in our facility, as well as we were running demonstrations on all of our machines. So it was a good day for students to get educated in that. Following that, we had a community, a couple hours where the facility was open for community members to come in and see the things that we had going on at OMIC R&D. With that, we hope to get that up and running again this year on probably October 6th, October 7th. So we'll try and have a community day beforehand. We might also try and plan our ribbon cutting for the new building on that October 6th date, and then October 7th have the large student event. We hope to become more open to where we can invite the community in for a couple of days. Typically, when we do invite the community in, we end up having typically 3 or 4 days prior that we aren't doing research. So we end up shutting down our business to prepare the facility, get things that are sharp put away, get certain high value items locked up and those things.
How many employees?
We have 10 plus contractors currently. Yeah. So, but since we're so far booked out with research now, we have justifications back to our university to allow us to hire more people.
Thank you. I think I see Amanda. Isaac, do I? Amanda.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Amanda Hayner from PCC OMIC. We have a couple of announcements this week. We have had some local schools out over the last couple of weeks. That's been a success. We've been really happy to see faces in the building and students getting excited about manufacturing. We had St. Helens and Scappoose high schools out already, and we have I think 4 or 5 more groups lined up. So that has been a success. Another thing that came up is, I don't know if anyone here heard about it, but some legislation called Future Ready Oregon passed recently, which gives $200 million to getting folks into high demand careers that Oregon needs filled. That includes manufacturing. So it's a big win for Portland Community College. It's also good news for OMIC because pretty much all of our students are in career pathways programs, which is what the bill affects. So that's good news. My last piece of news is a call for help from all of you. So this will actually be my last meeting. I'm going to be leaving PCC, not because I do not like the job. It's an amazing job. I'm leaving for family reasons. I have a kid here because daycare is closed today, somewhat fittingly. So I'll probably be leaving early, but I'm hoping to send my job posting to Isaac as soon as it's available. And then if you all could share it with your networks, that would be great. I would love to see someone local fill the position, someone who knows the community and can keep building those important connections. It's a great job and a great place to work. So I hope y'all can help me with that. And that's my news today.
Amanda, tell me what that piece of legislation was that had passed. I didn't write it down.
Oh, it's called Future Ready Oregon.
Thank you. Well, I'm sad to see you go. I'm so sorry. So sorry you can't take my kids personally, but that's fine.
I would have loved to give him a tour. I love doing that stuff. So, and I'm sure that the new person will as well.
Of course.
I didn't know if you weren't sharing it or not, Amanda. There's going to be another departure from PCC as well. Andrew Latanner is moving back to Colorado. And so PCC will be looking, for anybody that knows Andrew Latanner, PCC will now start the search for a new director of that center.
So before I go to Nancy, Jeff would like more things, has more things to say. Babies. More things to say? Oh, it's Paul who has more things to say. I kept getting this text. I thought it was Jeff, but it's Paul. Hi, Paul.
I didn't want to interrupt. I thought I'd do it at the end. One thing, and I don't know how I could forget this. I just returned from the governor's tourism conference, annual tourism conference, and at the banquet on award night Monday, Scappoose owned Wella Negel Spa received a statewide Rising Star Award awarded to a person in the industry that has been in that position for less than 5 years, and CET's been the DMO for only about three and a half years. Anyway, she was voted into that role, into that award by the Portland region. So I didn't want to not mention that. It was kind of a big deal.
I've congratulated her. She showed me her crown. It's lovely.
So at the port, probably the biggest thing that's happened in the since we last met was our industrial land inventory. Is everybody familiar with that? I'm not close enough. The industrial land project has been completed and was unveiled last week. And City of Scappoose, thank you very much for your participation. I think if you haven't been to our website, you want to go there. The way that you can access the information about the products that are available is pretty cool. And I believe it's also on CET's website also. Is that right, Paul? Yeah. And so you can go to either of those sites. You can get all kinds of information about the land that's available. I think probably the thing that surprised me the most was how little industrial land is available. Yeah, so this includes land that is 5 acres or more. and developable in a reasonable amount of time. We only have 19 different options. So, and that's throughout the county. There actually are none in Clatskanie. The majority of them are in Scappoose and St. Helens. So yeah, and I do think they've done an amazingly good job of putting this information together, of making it really accessible, of making it valuable information. So I encourage you to go to either one of our websites and access that. And Lynn, I expect you to buy a lot of them.
Thanks, Dan.
So how many acres altogether in Scappoose?
I don't know.
Ish?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
I'll look.
really don't. Yeah,
Look.
you need to
Maybe
go
somewhere.
look.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's so detailed that it took land like was available at Armstrong, but because it's not all developable, it only gives you the amount that you can develop. So it's really useful information. It's not just a bunch of data that you have to sort through to find what it actually applies to your interest. So yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, anything so comprehensive, so well done.
Is there any indication from the state of assisting properties, for instance, near the highway? The cost of development is one thing, but then if you're going to go on with ODOT, between your grant of access and your indenture of access, you wind up having a $3, $4, $5, or $6 a square foot added cost. It seems like the state ought to be on the investment side of development for employment. And I've never understood this concept. I've been at battle over multiple occasions with it.
Well, interesting enough, Len, I was just on a meeting this morning and I can't remember the name of the group, but it involves everybody involved in developing business in Oregon. So it included Business Oregon, it included the major players, including ODOT. And the gentleman from ODOT was very interested in getting the details about the land that we have available because he wanted to be able to sort it by what kind of problems transportation. Yes, he was right on it. I was so impressed. I mean, it was only like a 15-minute presentation, but he came back immediately and said, yeah, I could really use this to help you get further along with developing this property. So fingers crossed.
Oh, that would be a miracle to find somebody at ODOT that was cooperative instead of authoritative.
Yes, yes, I agree. And like you say, may this be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consultants have put this together, not only looked at infrastructure that's in place, but also challenges such as access, egress, highway issues, street issues, access to water and wastewater, and some of that will be useful in the near term in working with prospects, but also in the medium to long term for exactly what you're talking about, Len, is driving public policy decisions on infrastructure funding and program funding and that sort of thing to increase the developability of these employment lands.
And I would say the only other piece, recently at the port, we have a new person coming in to help Miriam in the project or in the property management department. And Elliot, who has been her assistant, is now moving out to Port of Columbia County, and he's going to be in charge of Port Westward. So still training, moving, adding, new people. So we're doing a lot. Any other questions? Thanks much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you're next on our agenda. We have to vote on that? Do we vote? I think we should vote on it. It is here. Okay, so that's me then. So Lynn and Brian for years about building a hotel, but I have decided that I don't think they're going to. After our last meeting, I started doing a little bit of research I called Best Western in St. Helens. I called Klatskanai. I met with Alex. I met with Lori. I started calling different hotels. I chatted with Josh at OMEC. Also, I talked to Miriam at the port. Didn't talk to PCC, but that was a suggestion. Kind of get an idea of what our needs looked like. Again, Best Western reported back that they're 50% for the most part, 100% capacity all summer and holidays. There was some other discussion about Best Western wants to buy the Klatskanai property. I understand the Klatskanai Inn they are looking for a buyer, so that might be something. Oh, I also talked to Will Kessie, and he was in that original with WANA Credit Union. They were going to build a hotel on that same piece of WANA property. And Mr. Kessie doesn't think that we need a hotel yet. But I did reach out to a lot of different developers. I have Holiday Inn Express who has shown interest, Choice Hotels who have shown interest, and Best Western who have shown interest. So trying to get an understanding with Paul. He's given me something to present OMEC, which I think is really the only reason why we could warrant a hotel with OMEC and our new industrial land coming in.
If I could add just one note, since our discussion, the one thing that I've brought up with Executive Director Campbell is the fact that with our increase in students from non-local universities, Portland State, Oregon State, and Oregon Tech, some students can come in for day-long projects and where we wouldn't need a hotel. We have seen quite a few people, and we do plan on in the future having students that are long stay. So one of the things and one of the concessions that we would be quite interested in is if whatever hotel moves in, if they have the ability to at reduced cost host students for longer periods of time.
So it's been, again, just gathering a lot of information. There was a question if we had a feasibility study. We've not ever had that done. That's where I am. I'm very brand new and trying to find it, so.
Ability studies would be done typically by the hotels.
Right. I didn't know if previously in 2008,
No,
there was
no,
whatever one,
no,
that's why
no.
I called Mr. Kessie.
Right, yeah, the hotel that we had talked to by McDonald's had done a basic feasibility, and he was looking at a 56 units. He said at that time that was supportable.
What year was that?
2009, 2008.
Oh, so that's kind of the
Yeah.
same time.
Right.
Okay. So when I met with Lori, she and Chris kind of looked at what we have available for land, and they identified 4 good pieces that would be reasonable. According to Choice Hotels, they need a little over 1.5 acres, build 3 or 4 stories for about 60 rooms is kind of where they want to be. And the spot that she liked the most, she and Chris liked the most, was over by on the corner of West Lane by Cascade Tissue. So it's not 2,000 feet from the highway, but still a nice location.
I agree,
We
but
really liked it.
hotel business has got to have a 25 to 35% dependency highway stop-in traffic the extra, because if hotels got to operate at about 75 to 80%, that means you got to cover weekends with full week times. So you got to have weekend coverage. And if you're off the highway, you'd have to have big signs and have a trade name that would, like the Thunderbird kind of a thing, the Red Lion name that people would recognize. But it would be very, very difficult.
Well, we found 3 that were on the highway.
Yeah, that's what you want to be
Okay.
on the highway.
I'll let them know that's what
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Okay. So that's what I've been doing about the hotel.
Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Brian. And I was doing my community conversations last night at the track meet, and I was chatting about the hotel, and there were other people who had names of developers. So I'm getting more more interest that way also. So the next thing is the Urban Renewal Grant Program, which I did attend. It was interesting. I don't think that we've made a decision on it yet, but yes, Scott can talk about it. Or
Isaac, the assistant to the mayor.
It's everybody's assistant. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for being one to everyone.
Problem. So the Urban Renewal agency did meet before last council meeting. Sure. Okay. So the Urban Renewal Agency did meet at the last council meeting. Before the last council meeting, and you're correct, no final decisions were made. They did make progress on narrowing the focus of the programs they're considering. So that program will be back in front of them again at the next Urban Renewal meeting, which I don't currently have the data of. I can get that if you'd like. May 2nd. They're looking at a variety of sizes of potential programming with quite a bit of flexibility built in to make decisions. But other than that, there's really wasn't any decisions made. I understand it.
So when I was at that meeting, I heard the guy, don't remember his name. Who's the guy?
Scott Vandenbos.
Yeah, not you.
I know.
He was saying that we can identify the particular area. Pat had said he didn't want to necessarily identify a particular area. He wanted it to put out to everyone. I really see just that one stretch between the liquor store and the pet store that kind of, I think, defines us. That I would think would be a target. I mean, that's really our only like collective downtown area we have.
Over here too.
On the highway, as Lynn said, on the highway. Fred Meyer can't be our downtown.
That's where all the people go.
Other committee
Sorry to say.
meeting wanted to focus on that area too.
Say it again, please.
Other committee members at the meeting wanted to focus on that area.
I mentioned, I did hear that, but I heard Pat saying you didn't want to exclude. He wanted it very inclusive.
I thought, are you saying that it's going to be available to the highway in general?
What I heard is they're able to identify you can identify a particular area that you would like to target.
Okay, but doesn't it have to follow the district?
Yes.
The urban renewal.
Right, so it can't go outside of the district.
So it has to follow the urban renewal district, but the committee, the urban renewal agency, can focus on certain areas. Like we could focus on areas within the downtown overlay.
Right. Okay.
As a criteria.
Can you clarify about Pat? I don't remember seeing Pat at the meeting, the Urban Renewal meeting.
I was sure that he was there.
At who?
McHugh?
Oh, Pete.
Pete.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So sorry. Pete.
I also just want to mention that Tina, the EDC member, just joined online.
Oh, fantastic. Welcome, Tina.
So if I understand it correctly, you guys were talking about giving grants for interior equipment and such, as well as exterior facade improvements. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
There have been a couple. I mean, they're still working through which portions of the program are going to fund what kind of things, and they ultimately have the authority to choose whatever they want to. And I don't believe that kind of a decision was made at that yet.
Okay.
I do think there was discussion about on the small grants, inside equipment as well as.
I would just say that when we put together this original program, it was never intended for interior improvements. The buy-in that this committee gave was for exterior improvements that would improve the appearance of the city, not some way to subsidize businesses that, should be able to take care of their own equipment needs. So if we're going to, proceeding with this, I would think we'd want to try to make it exterior improvements that would benefit the appeal of the city. Just a thought. I don't know if it would be appropriate, but I would actually like to make a motion that we send that as a recommendation to the other committee and see if there is enough buy-in of our group to send that over as a request.
Is it necessary at this point, since we've not
I
really?
mean, if you want it,
I think it's a good voice to put into the agency.
So then I would like to make a motion that any grants given or the small things must be on exterior improvements that are visible to the public.
Could it just be any improvements?
Yeah,
Improvements
Well,
could be at any cash level.
yeah. The only reason why I said the small grant program is I was being specific to this particular program, but I think any grants should be for interior. Exterior, I'm sorry. Messed that one up.
Well, so there's two grant programs that were being discussed. One's a small grant program and one's a larger grant program that would be more focused, could be as large as, you know, swaying development to develop in a certain way. Or sewer water line extensions that help bring that in, which is different than exterior small grant programs.
I think that at this point, personally, I would go with the small grant program. But if there's a desire by the committee to go include all, then that's also okay. But public infrastructure.
I mean, I see your motion perfect for the small grant program. It gives really specific direction from this committee on what you want to see on the small grant program.
Okay,
And we're not even, we still haven't even discussed the larger grant program because, well, we ran out of time.
Well, then let's keep it to the small grant program, at least for my motion, unless somebody else wants to make a different motion. So I'll make a motion that for the small grant program, it must be on exterior features only that are visible to the public.
A vote?
Aye.
In favor?
How much is the, can I have a question? How much is remind me, how much is the small grant program? How much are we allocating to each business?
I don't think it's been determined yet.
There is an amount allocated to each business. There is a total amount each year that's going to be allocated per the urban renewal plan. It does increase a little bit over the years. I double checked it, but it's not a ton of money. So I think the most recent number was right around 28,000. And that would cover both programs. If the money doesn't get used one year, it just rolls forward and continues to accumulate. I would keep, I think this recommendation is good that you're sending over to council. One thing I would just stress, I think that, and something that we talked about that I think is really important is just that the program is by design flexible so that if, say, for a few years, no one applied and the funds continue to accumulate, and then there was a larger project that came in that council wanted to fund, they could take all of that money and put it towards that one larger development if it was, a good opportunity. So I do think having some flexibility in there that the agency can identify projects and pivot quickly is important. So just to keep that in mind of, maybe not putting in a ton of parameters, letting them know what you all want to see, I think is important, but letting it also be flexible so they can react in real time, I think is going to be important.
Still at the vote.
Yeah, we're still at the vote.
We have a vote for in favor. Aye.
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 And any opposed?
Me. I just don't have enough information, I guess. It's just really vague for me to make a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Motion carries.
Oh, say it again.
Motion carries.
Motion clears. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, it was looming. You want to do goals?
Goals,
first, and
two
then
goals,
you-
yes.
Okay. So what are we talking about with our goals, Isaac?
You would ask for it to be on the agenda. Typically, the way it works with the goals from council is that once they're approved, staff creates action plans, and from there, as council directs us or directs the committee, things will kind of trickle down over the next year or so. We anticipate that the 50-year plan will have quite a bit of involvement from all of the committees. As all the people in here can weigh in on all the various topics. There's essentially a liaison from every committee on the 50-year plan group. So we anticipate there to be quite a bit of content coming from that. As for other initiatives coming through the year, we won't really know until after the goals are out. But once council gets through them, and they may be July.
So as far as our 50-year plan, will that be under the updates? And do we have a liaison assigned to that?
You are.
You, the vice chair of the committee.
I find out at the
You were at the meeting that you got appointed,
No, but I didn't know that I was the, Ryan was there too.
Chair.
That's just breathing.
Lynn was there too. A lot of us were there. Nancy was there.
Pat Cassie brought up the same issue. I can't believe you made me chair. I was like, well, it was your idea. Of course I made you chair.
I walked in and I said, Isaac, where do I sit? He's like, oh, I think you have one up there. And I'm looking for my name. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm the vice chair. Who knew? Thank you, Scott. Oh, so the goals, I know you said they would come. When will they?
So in my experience, council and the city specifically haven't actually like created a goal list for committees. What will happen that I've seen is that a specific program will come up. So the small business spotlight program for parks, it's probably going to be a master plan. But there'll be smaller projects. There'll be one-offs that come down through, trickle through things that we want to hear feedback on. But like an actual goal list that gets transmitted hasn't been something that's happened.
Well, we voted on it though. I mean, we spent 3 sessions working on it.
Yes, and that was the goal recommendations to go to council.
Correct.
For the city goals. So those went into the goals for the city, but not
Yes.
necessarily the committee.
I thought those were goals that I identified that we would participate and work on.
So those were goals that you identified to send the council to consider when they made their goals. What happens with them is a council decision. So if they take them under consideration and create a goal, it becomes an action plan for city staff. Sometimes they're related, sometimes they're not. But at the end of the day, it's really up to council how they want to proceed with that, whether they want to hand it back to the committee, hand it to staff, hand it to some mixture, nothing. Sometimes they encompass it under something else. So for example, parks would be a great one to look at. So they had a whole list of goals. A lot of the things that they wanted to do ended up being encompassed underneath the master plan goals. So their goals are underneath other things. It can be a little bit, sometimes it's not as clear as how they're tied in, but there are city goals that are created out of those recommendations, necessarily committee.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's kind of complicated. Do you have any clarifying questions?
No, just want purpose. Now something to do. I took on the hotel thing.
I don't have my reader, so I've got to take the glare off of.
Want me to hold it, Scott?
I don't know what distance I need to. I can read it with my readers. I just can't. Okay, so here was the goal. The goal: develop a vibrant and diverse local economy. I assume is the primary goal you committee works on. I mean, my thought process would be is that we've got the urban renewal agencies working on develop a downtown revitalization program. One of the goals was evaluate the creation of a small business incubator. OMIC is working on something like that, but I mean, I guess the identify goals for community branding, support and monitor development of Columbia Commerce Center, work with partners to develop robust economic development marketing, continue to support OMIC, promote and support small local businesses, promote and support countywide and local tourism. So in my thought process is that there's at least 3 of the items on here that are just open-ended, that the committee could bring their own ideas to, make suggestions to the city on how to go forward, whether it's small business incubator program, promote and support small local businesses, promote and support countywide, or even recruit. Obviously, recruiting hotels is something that was brought up by the committee. You know, that's what I'd like to see is looking for purpose. To me, within the goals, there is purpose. It's just now the committee defining what they want to do with that purpose of supporting small businesses, recruiting. Maybe it's not just recruiting a hotel, but supporting a vibrant economy. Could be bringing a hotel, could be recruiting, who knows what else. So, you know, we're looking to you to kind of maybe take the bull by the horns, which you did with the hotel, and really kind of look at what are some of the ideas you would bring up in these areas that you think would work for our community.
Just listening.
And so that's what I'm looking for. And, you know, and then, you know, I'm looking to support you and have the council support you on that, because this is one of our goals. And I don't know if there's, I mean, the city, okay, how do develop these, they're going to get the technical stuff, but the ideas, it would be nice if it percolated from the business community, from people that develop property, that sell property, that run a business in town. You know, that way we get this input from y'all on these areas. And they're kind of broad areas. They're not very specific goals. They're develop a generic program. Now, OMIC is talking about doing an incubator that I love, and any way we can support you on that would be great, because getting a business incubated here usually means that we can then turn them over to Paul, and then Paul will find them a piece of property to build on and expand. Right, Paul? Well, he's frozen.
Is frozen.
That's correct. And actually, we're working with OMIC on the incubator side as well.
So I would look at.
This is Tina. I was just curious. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, yeah, I was just curious, and maybe I missed it from not being in other meetings. But what exactly is this, like the business incubator? Like what will we be doing for them?
Want to handle it?
Yeah, from the OMIC side, I know we have a couple efforts going. We have efforts with the port, and then we also have efforts to do something on our own site where we have been working with a venture capitalist group and company that specifically supports accelerating companies. So after you exit that incubation stage, you enter acceleration right before commercialization. With that, and working with this group that's located over in Texas, and we're hoping to cross-populate their group here and OMIC into Austin, Texas. We start to see the need for spaces somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet with some kind of shared manufacturing space. The term maker lab is familiar to people, but it goes beyond that, having a place where shared woods, metals, additive printing, composites can be done amongst all those accelerators. But also it's the link to and having offices and people available that can help a company know how to do taxes, know how to do admin, accelerate. OMEP is a great example of that.
So is this, the incubators you're talking about are for industrial purposes primarily? Is that correct? Or at least supportive of industrial?
Yeah, because we'll have all the equipment and expertise on site around that, like a software startup wouldn't be quite in our wheelhouse.
So another example of an incubator program was in Lincoln City. A few years ago, I went down to Lincoln City for the Oregon Mayor's annual conference, and I think it was the Urban Renewal Agency out there, but they had an incubator program that was, because of where they are, their tourist-heavy industry was focused on glass blowing. So a lot of those glass blowers that are on the highway there were actually in, or are actually in, city-owned property that is a part of their incubator program, where, interestingly enough, a lot of people, when they go to training for their specialized careers, whether it's glass blowing, doctors, nurses, or doctors, attorneys, they don't get the business side training. In fact, when you go to art school, it used to be very frowned upon to get the business side of running art because it was supposed to be art. And so these people come out, they're glass blowers, and they don't know the first thing about running a business. They can do magnificent jobs. So the whole system got them into a place at a lower price, help them develop business plans and run their business and teach them how to run the business to be a successful business. And in Lincoln City, for what they were focused on, very successful, because now you drive down there, there's glass blowing places up and down the area. So that's, outside the industrial area, that's another way to look at it. What kind of businesses would need it out here?
Got it. Thank you for that answer. That sounds really exciting. And any help I can do with the incubation and helping businesses, I would love to be part of that. So I appreciate you guys explaining it to me. Thank you.
Welcome.
One of the economic processes of incubators or collective buildings like that is to condominiumize them too. And I don't think we have land use rules right now that would allow that. We ought to be looking at the process, because if you take a 25,000 foot building in today's world, it can be, anywhere from $80 to $150 a square foot. So if you're buying off a 750 foot chunk of it, it might be affordable.
But are you recommending that's something the committee should look at?
Yeah, I think we ought to look at the question of condominiumizing industrial things and commercial things. The other thing is that they condominiumize hotels. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So, we've got a tremendous amount of high earning people living in Scappoose, okay, that are not part of our daily activities. They work at the Intels and they work at Nike and they work out of here, but they do probably fit a decent investor profile. So who knows if that may be a combination that the community ought to figure out how to relate to.
I think that idea is good, but I think it might be more suited for the port because the port has land at the airport. They wouldn't need particularly large parcel, and they have property management.
That's true. Kim, 3 acres of light industrial for Dave. No, that's not Portland. That's.
I get the
Yeah.
What are they doing with the old humps?
Well, or basically you construct a new building, just like Brian's building across the street. It's got, 6 or 7 partitions, and you'd be able to sell each one of those partitions as a. We don't have condominium rules for that kind of thing, right?
Well, so that Klatskin and I might have rules. that
Maybe
allow-
the city of.
Yes.
Yeah, right. The city would have the.
The other thing about Lynn's idea that does pose a little bit of a problem is once you start doing condomization of industrial or commercial, fire code starts kicking in because you build a building for a specific use. So then suddenly you have to have firewalls that are very substantial, fire suppression systems are very substantial because you're trying to offer it for a broader use. And then it pushes up construction costs some. It would be nice if code existed to allow for it. I don't know if there's going to be enough of a demand to do it because of that added cost.
You said that we don't have that, but isn't that what we have across the street in Lorelei Village? It's a big building and there's lots.
Well, it's not what Len's talking about is fractional ownership.
Oh, I see.
And the fractional ownership creates additional fire code and issues.
I get it.
With that, which.
Well, but you had those same codes when you build a building over 15,000 feet.
Yeah.
Where Extapa is, that whole building had to be built to that multiple.
We do have one building in town and I don't know how they did it. Down where Wilmsey Glass is, there's a flower shop, Wilmsey Glass. That has fractional ownership. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did.
Okay.
Interesting.
So I guess we've just kind of glided into my open discussion then. Perfect. Because it related to goals, and that's why I kind of wanted to wait, is that we could glide into it. And, I guess what I would think that would be great is that we now have goals. I don't know if the committee's seen the finalized goal list or if we put it out the kids. Yeah, I just saw it in I can't read it, but there's writing down there. Because they put it in like two font, 2-point font.
It's like, note, he needs a 15 or 20.
But so probably at the next meeting, I think it'd be great to start going through these goals and what does the committee see a good outcome from these generalized, a lot of these are generalized goals. And how do we get there and work with making recommendations to the council or doing subcommittees just to work on the goals.
I think that's a great idea.
And, and then that way there's purpose. The purpose should be related to the goals that are embedded within the city so that because it's a city committee. And then we, turn them over to Paul for all the fancy grants and everything that he's going to get for him.
Thank you, Ella.
And if he doesn't, then we'll have to turn to Wella because we know she's got a beautiful new crown from tourism.
And she writes a mean grant.
And she writes a mean grant, I understand. But yeah, so I think that's the start point for me, is just seeing what you guys can do, guys and gals and everyone in the committee. Trying to be more,
You're doing a good job.
Where you can take these goals to the next step. And, some of them are just continue to support OMIC, and I think we will in any manner that you can once I get that fancy gavel.
And that he attends, it's so much better.
But that's what I think would be the good direction. And it would also give you the opportunity to continue down the road with the, because a diverse and vibrant economy includes a hotel. It could include more shops, more restaurants. We're getting the Tesla chargers and the charging station. So we're going to be, advanced society now. With gas prices, going through the roof, more people might actually want to use them. So that's what I'd like to see. Is just taking that next step, take our goals and dig down into them a little bit and come back with stuff for the council, because there's only currently 6. We're looking for a 7th. Anyone that's interested, lives within the city. Jeanette, anyone else in the city that's here that's interested? We have an open council position, but there's only 6 of us, and that's why we have the committee, so we have more brains on the job. That's it. Anyone has any thoughts or comments?
That's everything. We're early, so.
And I am signing autographs as I was on KPTV last night.
Did you get arrested?
No, they were asking me about high gas prices and Uber driving.
Were you so lucky? Did you just charge in and see the lights?
They knew I was, they had my contact information as the mayor that was an Uber driver.
Weird.
And so they reached out to me, and Uber and Lyft both added a 55-cent surcharge to rides goes directly to drivers to help cover the cost. And I was like, well, that covers me, so I'm good. I don't know about other people, but I have a car that gets good gas mileage and has 270,000 miles on it.
They bought it brand new last year.
A ride, yeah. You do 20 rides. Yeah, 20 rides would get you about $10. For me, I do about 20 to 25 rides in a day. And I fill up my tank every day I drive. So it's about $10 more fill up, because it's up about $1 because of the Ukraine war. The other $1 was because of Biden's policies. I mean, I hate it when people just try to blame one thing and not the other thing. Policies do have an impact, whether good or bad. There's good intent behind some of it. It's just sometimes you jump the gun. But so the $1 from the war, the 55 cents for me covers the additional gas, because it's really $1 per gallon extras on 10 gallons is $10. So, and I probably didn't make too many of the Uber drivers that complain about how much they make happy, but oh well.
That made a comment on the chat. She said, I agree, we should get more clarification from council and the mayor. This group should be working on.
Yeah, Jeanette, and that's why I was like, I'm handing over the goals to you to really look at what you want to do within that goal set. And it gives you a broad picture. And then the council is going to support whatever you're wanting to do. I mean, because we're not the experts on economic development. And we've got Jeanette who works you do the grants. We got Brian who builds, Lynn who finances building. I mean, Mr. Hafman over here who sells property and has we have a big knowledge base here. And I would rather just, here's the goals of the city, the council has passed, take them and decide what you want to do that you think can enhance that goal. I mean, I don't want to be specific and say, I want you to do this. I want you to decide as a group what you think you can do to accomplish or support those goals.
Okay.
Sorry to lay it back on you, but there's the guidance. And because I don't know exactly what you want to do, I don't want to tell you to do something you don't want to do, because when you don't want to do something, you don't put the same effort into it as something you want to do.
Right.
And that's,
So we voted on the goals in January, is that right? And then in our February meeting, we asked about the goals and we were told that they had to be approved by council and then they would be sent back to us and that the city would create action plans for us. That was the instruction that
Okay.
we received. So that's what we've been waiting for.
so my thought process is more, here are the goals. Some of the goals are going to be more city doing, the staff doing, but there's some of these ones are just very generic goals that I think the committee should take a look at and go, what can we do to do this and come back? Because the goals we just passed the goals at the last meeting, at our last council meeting. So these have just recently been passed by the council. So yeah, and the purpose, and what I'd like to see, I'd love to see a report coming from this committee that says, here's these goals and here's what we want to do under these goals. And here's our recommendations.
What do we do if we have costs involved, process and presentation?
The budget for us.
Yeah, there's still a budget for them.
There was $10,000, but outside of our bagels.
10,000 and plus, things that are costs that are within the urban renewal agency too, those recommendations, I assume those costs would come out of the urban renewal. Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a great deal of cost, but I think
Like if we wanted to talk about trying to get like greater downtown area wired for Christmas lights and trying to work with the PUD, because we've kind of dealt with this a little in the past and it didn't really go too far. If we wanted to talk about, let's say, improvements with flower baskets in some of the downtown area, would that be appropriate to look for urban renewal money to fund that?
I think that fits within the urban renewal. If it's downtown, it's in the urban renewal district. I think that those are the things. It has to be within the urban renewal district.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I figure we don't hardly do anything directly. It's almost all recommendation.
well, I mean, just look at my little hotel adventure. Is I wanted to partner with the city, whether it be the mayor or the city manager, and I was able to get time with Lori. But just having a better understanding of the future of the city, so I can sell that. So now I've got this collection of data, and I need to put it in some kind of presentation. So whether it be copy fees or making it look like a professional presentation, that will cost money.
I would, when you get it digitized, I would contact Isaac because the city might be able to just do that under the, if it's a goal of the Economic Development Committee. I mean, it's a small enough amount that the city manager can just approve those expenditures if they're within the realm of the Economic Development Committee.
Okay. I wasn't even anticipating.
Well, that's why I was saying that you get it to the digital format and then you get it over to the city. They might be able to just print it out on our.
Christine, you're not talking about huge amounts of money here, right? Just like $100, $200,
Yeah.
$300 kind of thing.
Not thousands.
So depending what.
I'd like to request that after the next meeting, after we go through the goals from council, that we would give feedback then and know whether, and then get feedback from council and know whether there are other committees working on the same goals we've identified. I don't want to be at cross purposes between different.
Okay, that works. We can do that.
And all of the committees have different focuses though, right?
And I'm a big advocate for, like when you're doing a presentation, especially when you sit down in front of someone, having that presentation folder brands the city, because I can tell you that when we went and we did presentations or do presentations, even though you think it's a silly expense, it does send a message that you're serious about what you're doing when it's something that's branded. And I do have a small background of selling, when I was selling binding and laminating equipment, part of that was branding and working with companies about branding, putting that folder out there and how much difference it makes when you're trying to sell something than it is, you know, it's in a peachy or.
Right. Well, and that's something else. I reached out to Paul Vogel to have a better way to present this, because we have, you know, again, in my limited expertise and the information that I've gathered and presenting that to a hotel like a Choice Hotels or a Holiday Inn Express, I want to be able to present that so we don't look like the small hayseed town that we are, that it does look professional. So what resources are available besides Isaac, but Isaac is enough, making a professional presentation.
I know that we do have a brochure that was put together for that purpose at some point, don't we? So there's.
I want the brochure, but we need to include OMEC.
Yeah, we need to include OMIC and PCC, which is new, because, you know, they're both going to be some of the big draws for a hotel and other people that are looking at the future of this area. You know, having those two here, I love the fact that I'm hearing about a third building. I mean, and the second one hasn't even been built. So.
And the airport.
So are there resources available to this committee to put?
Yeah, well,
together?
you annually you have a budget, $10,000. If you want, you think that's not enough, make a request to the council and the budget committee for more.
I don't think it's a matter of that. I just think, you know, I'm going to need an NJ or an Isaac to help me put that together. I know they're already taxed and continue to be taxed with more things.
And that's why I always recommend that if you can get, and I don't know, as far as someone that can help you put together the presentation, let me look. I mean, Mike Sykes did a lot of that. He might have some volunteer time.
I talked to him too.
He's not here, so let's just volunteer him for stuff.
Call him.
Yeah, the port. Yeah, so the port also has an interest because the port has property within the area that having a hotel here could help sell the property better too. There's like, it's one of those things, the chicken and the egg, which came first? Which one is going to?
I've talked about this several times over the years, but back in my corporate days, I helped do site location. We would not consider a town that did not have a hotel motel of a Best Western quality or better. Just would not consider it. It was done because there was no way to deal with it in a functional fashion. So, and that was on our checklist. We had checklists like many other companies did. We were Fortune 500, and if you didn't have it, you were off the list. So I do feel like this is an important project, and it's great that Christina's taken it under her wing.
I would love to have you guys help me. I know you're not busy. Right. So now I asked Miriam about that, and she said that they don't have, there's not a lot of lodging needs. Okay, that's the information that I need, that I've been attempting to gather. So if you can put me in, like, give me an idea of that, like, monthly expectation, maybe. Okay. Miriam, but you were my first call. They said to call Miriam. Not to bother you. All right.
Jeanette had to jump off. She had one more comment that she put up there. She says, I agree with Jeff on getting final comments from council. So we're not duplicating other efforts. I recommend we have a work session to talk about the general goals we want to tackle. I think she means internally.
Mm-hmm.
And she said I have to run.
So I think the other thing is that we should have a joint work session with council. You guys can come on a Monday night, or we could have if we've got a blank somewhere when,
That would be fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
like, so yeah, that would bring this whole loop where you come together with those things, and we do a work session together where we discuss it as a group. That brings you all back full circle.
Fantastic, thank you. See that glasses and a hip, apparently. So is there anything else? Because I think we're to the end. Our next meetings will be April 21st, May 19th, and June 16th.
Same time.
Same time, same station, Lynn, right here.
You stacked them all together. I thought you got 3 days at the same time. Just a joke.
You're funny. April 21st. And May 19th. On your calendar here. Is there anything else? Michael, you've been like super quiet over there, do you? I know, but we'd love to get your mind meld.
Thoughts to articulate, but
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Christine.
Turn off your microphone so Isaac doesn't.